Are you applying for the US Masters and PhD program for next year? If the answer is yes, then I'm going to share the entire timeline from here till the next 12 months, that what are the steps you need to take care to apply effectively for your admission or scholarship process. So let's get started. Let me introduce myself. My name is Faisal. I'm the founder and CEO of Scholar.den. For those who don't know me, I've been mentoring students for the last 9 years, and I have interacted with more than 40,000 students all across the world, and I help thousands of students to avail fully and partial funded scholarships in the US for the master's and PhD programs. So in this video, I'm going to share a very detailed timeline with respect to each month that you need to focus on so that you can submit your application effectively. So let's get started. In this month of September, the first thing that you need to focus on is make sure that you either in the final stages of your test, which is GRE, or you are in the final stages of your research work or your shortlisting process. Yes, you must be wondering, yes, GRE exam for a lot of schools, but there are still a lot of schools that do require GRE. And especially if you're planning to get a scholarship either for the PhD or for the master's program. GRE actually helps you to get a scholarships. Yes, I understand that you can still apply without GRE, but then don't expect you'll be getting a scholarship unless you have a very strong research background. What do you mean by research background? That basically means that you need to have at least good number of research papers in good research journals where you can really impress the professors. I'll be sharing the description of the scholarship services that we offer in the bio below, and I would highly recommend you to go through the platform, go through the resources we have, go through the success story we have. We have helped thousands of students to avail fully and partial funded scholarship in the US, and I would definitely recommend you to check it out, and do share your feedback with us in the comments below. So in the month of September, you need to focus on your GRE preparation, you need to focus on your research paper, and you can also work on your CV as well, which is also a prerequisite to get a fully funded scholarship or apply to the scholarship in the US. In CV, the student get confused. Either they have to go for a one-page resume or they have to go for a CV. There's a confusion around CV and resume. So let me briefly explain the difference. Resume is basically for job. It's a very shorter version. So for every 10 years of experience, you need to have one page of resume. Whereas for CV, it's a detailed profile, and it's mainly for the academic purpose. For example, if you're applying for the PhD or master's, you should definitely change your CV format, or you can change your profile as per the CV format so that it can be detailed as much as you can be. Why there's a need to be more detailed? Because you, as a graduate student, or you're applying for the master's or PhD, you might have a lot of research papers, or you might have a research experiences, or you might have 10 to 15 years of teaching experience. So you need to be more detailed, so the person who is going to look at your profile should look at each and every detail of what your profile entails. And that is going to help you to impress the professors over there. On Scholar.den, we have a very smart tool that we have developed in which we customize your profile into a very impressive CV in just 15 minutes. And that is not a tool that we have copied from XYZ website or something. We actually build the entire tool internally using our years of experience, what makes a CV stand out as compared to other applicants. The CV making is part of the offer that we provide scholarship service to our students. In the month of September and beginning of October, you can also approach universities for funding. There are certain ways you can approach a professor, there are certain ways you can approach a university for funding, and we'll be covering a very detailed session on that, how to approach universities and professors for funding. Moving to the next month, which is October and November. In these 2 months, you need to focus on shortlisting your universities. We'll be covering a very detailed video in which we'll talk about the shortlisting. But in shortlisting, according to my opinion, you need to shortlist at least 6 universities, but don't shortlist more than 10 universities because you don't want to impact the quality of your application where you're applying to those universities. If you ask me, I'll shortlist maximum 6 universities and not more than that or not less than that, because I think 6 is a very good number to apply considering the timelines we have. So once you once you shortlist those 6 universities, the next step is you start working on your letter of recommendation and your statement of purpose, which is SOP. Letter of recommendations has to be covered in the month of October and November. Usually there are 3 letter of recommendation required for almost every university, either 2 or 3. Unfortunately, in the developing countries, the professor does not write in themselves. They request the students to write it for them. So in that case, what you need to do is that you need to customize your letter of recommendation accordingly with respect to different unique projects that you have done. So we'll be covering a very detailed session on letter of recommendation in the later videos. In this process, in the month of October and November, you also need to work on any prerequisites you have. Either it's a degree evaluation, which has to be done through wes.org, or it is about you have not taken the IELTS or the English proficiency test that you need to take this in these 2 months. Regarding the English proficiency test, I would highly recommend go for IELTS, TOEFL, and Duolingo. If I have to choose out of these 3, I'll pick IELTS because it's easier than TOEFL and Duolingo. Whereas Duolingo also has some limitation because it's not accepted in all the universities. Whereas TOEFL is I find it more harder than the IELTS exam. So I would highly go with IELTS. But you need to keep one thing in mind, that you need to give ample time, at least 3 weeks before the admission deadline. You need to take the IELTS because IELTS exam takes 3 weeks to get an optional score. So do keep these timelines in mind as well. And in December, you will see the majority of universities have a deadline. Some universities have a deadline in November as well. Some universities have a deadline in January and Feb as well. But the majority you will see in the month of December. So once you have worked on the SOP, once you have worked on LORs, then you need to submit your application in the month of December, January, and February, and then you need to wait for the decision in the month of March. March, April, and May, you will see universities are giving you offers or rejections, and asking you to reserve your slot in those universities. Then once you get all the confirmation from all the universities, then if you're lucky enough that you get a scholarship, then you can start, or you get an admission, then you can start applying for the visa process, which is done through a I-20 form. You request the university to receive a I-20 form, which is a legal document that you need to submit it to the visa officer, which basically states your financial details and your personal details. So once you receive the I-20, then you apply for the DS-160, and you take an appointment for the visa, you pay the service fee, and this is how you book a slot for the visa interview at the embassy at your local country. And after that, you appear for the interview. It has to be an in-person interview at the local consulate that you have in your respective country. I also want to give a very important heads up that for the US visa interview, you need to book an appointment way early than you're planning to schedule, because you might be put on hold even after the visa interview. And they call it administrative process, and usually I've seen students who end up getting their visa on administrative process for at least 4 months, starting from in the range of from 3 days till 4 months. And even in rare cases, I've seen students getting the visa getting delayed for at least 2 years. So it's really important that I'm not trying to scare you, but what I'm trying to say is that you need to keep those timelines in mind as well while booking for the visa interview. So once you appear for the interview, then you need to focus on getting sounding like a German student, So there are ways to sound like a genuine student, and there are ways to appear. As per of my experience, my students have like 100% success rate in terms of visa interviews, because there is a technique that you need to follow. According to me, there are two types of things that the visa officer looks at. One is how genuine you are as a student. So they look at the academic profile of a person, and which universities are you going to, what do you know about the universities, what is the purpose of going to those universities, and stuff like that. And the second part is your financial part. Do you have the enough funds to study in the US, and who's going to pay it, and all those questions like that. So we'll be covering a separate video talking about the visa interview tips, do's and don'ts. And then the later part is that once you have the visa with you for the US, which is normally called an F1 visa, then the next step is you start preparing, on, wrapping up stuff from your home country. For example, if you're working for an employer, you start putting your resignation, and you start meeting with your friends, start packing your luggage, and start meeting with your family members so that you can plan everything accordingly. So in the month of June, July, you do all those stuff, and in the month of August, you actually prepare to leave for the US. So in this process, in the month of June, July, and August, you actually at the same time you're wrapping up stuff from your home country. At the same time, you're also thinking of moving ahead, and you start booking for your travel. You're also working on your boarding as well. You're finding your accommodation on campus or off campus. Initially, what I recommend is that you should focus on campus, and at least spend one semester on campus, and after that you move to the off campus once you settle down in that city or town. Where the safe areas, where not the safe areas, where the places you need to go, where the places you don't need to go. So these are the timeline that you need to follow. We'll be covering a series of videos in which we're going to talk about your CV, the shortlisting process, how to approach university for funding, letter of recommendation, statement of purpose, interviews, your visa interview, and the entire visa process, as well as your logistic supports. All these components are very important to get a funding or admission in the US. So we'll be sharing all those useful information with you in the coming months. And do let us know if you have any specific questions with regards to the admission or scholarship process. We'll be happy to answer or incorporate those things in the videos in the coming months and weeks. All right, so take care and good luck.